welcome back to another episode of Mission Control, the Bellwether Enterprise Podcast. For this episode, we have a special guest, Sara Behrman, our Executive Vice President out of our Cincinnati office. And the theme for today's episode is about relationship building and relationships in the industry of commercial real estate. So, Sara, welcome. Thanks for jumping on this podcast.
Anything for marketing, Ryan.
All right. So I like to hear that. So I think just first question, in case people don't know who you are, haven't met you before, let's just start off with a little bit of intro of you, I guess, if you will, just kind of an overview, how you got into the industry, kind of what you do down in Cincinnati, kind of who you are, I guess. Start with the hard ones. Talk about yourself.
Okay, no problem. Well, my entry into the industry is the same as my mortgage banking style, very unique. I'd never had a finance class. I'd never had an accounting class. My math skills are absolutely terrible. I was a public policy major in college, which kind of means you major in what you don't want to do, what you don't know what you want to do. And so when I got out of college, I applied to a bank, a sales job with Procter & Gamble, and a retail job. And I ended up taking the bank job because I thought, I don't know anything about finance. I should really learn something for a year or two, and then I can always go into sales. So that's sort of how I got into the management training program at a bank. And the head of the real estate department had interviewed me, and he said, why don't you come on and join the real estate department after it? And I said, well, that would be okay, but I don't really know what a mortgage is. So as you can tell, I'm a very straight shooter, not afraid to admit my weaknesses, but I know that my strength is definitely my relationship building and what people call the soft skills. I would beg to differ and say that the soft skills are actually the power skills, which are required in our job. I think a lot of the people coming into the industry are really focused on the numbers, the metrics, the statistics, and meeting goals. And I would say that if you have the relationships, all the goals are going to fall into place, and you will definitely hit your goals and do so many more deals if you have the relationships and you focus on that versus focusing on the financial side.
You have this call upcoming with Freddie Mac where you're basically, I guess you can mention it really quick. You got invited to speak to the company about relationships, I guess. What's the theme of that? It kind of what segued into this podcast idea as well.
Yeah, I was really flattered. They asked me to do a fireside chat with their production teams, I think nationwide, on how to form relationships because they're interested in strengthening their relationships with their partners. And they know from me dealing with them for the past 30, 35 years that I feel like the lender relationships are as important as the client relationships. And I think also internal relationships. To me, all three are equally important on the prong, so to speak. I think that you have to have strong, genuine, long-term developed relationships with all three of those entities in order to be successful. And Freddie knows that one thing they need to work on is building the relationships with the mortgage bankers that bring them deals. So we're going to do a little fireside chat. It's similar to this. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to practice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, like I said, kind of inspired me to want to reach out and do this podcast. I thought, and we discussed a little bit about that project you're doing with Freddie Mac. And, there's a lot of good things that, I think the viewer and listener of this podcast could definitely gain some insight and some good knowledge from that. And when we talk about, just from your experience in the business and your knowledge of that kind of thing, I guess we can talk about like the different ways of doing business in a production element, what you see as the ways you can do business as a producer in this industry and how your style, how you see it as unique and how that became to be, I guess, your style. I don't know, however way to say that, like how your style became your style, I guess.
Okay, well, here's the thing. You have to be very genuine. No matter what role you play, you have to let your personality come through, whether you're an extrovert, an introvert, gifted in mathematics or gifted in strategic negotiation, whatever it is, you need to play to your strengths and hone up your weaknesses. So a lot of people as producers partner up. There's a lot of production teams. I have partnered up a little bit differently though. I partnered up with our senior underwriter, Sherry Seeley, and we've been together for quite a long time because my weakness is the numbers. And so she is my partner. So we do almost everything together. On a few instances, I've worked with other underwriters in our office, which is perfectly fine. But over the long term, I work with Sherry, and every single deal, we collaborate, we talk about how we're underwriting it, we talk about who we're going to show it to, how we're going to show it to them. If we've got concerns, questions, issues, whatever. It's interesting. So many producers think they have to partner with producers. And I would differ to say partner with whatever type of person is going to enhance your ability to do business. So we have a very unique partnership. And I could not do my job without Sherry. And I know she's very grateful to all the business that we have done together. And I think people should think about themselves strategically in that way. What am I good at? And what do I need improvement in? And try to partner up with either one person, two people, three people. I mean, there's different ways to do it, but to make sure that you are able to deliver in the best possible way. The other thing is, I think it's really important to try to develop friendships, either with clients or lenders or whatever, in a very genuine, not fake way. So I know all about their lives, their kids, their trips, their accomplishments, everything that's going on in their lives. And I have also chosen to focus, and I maybe have 6 excellent clients and maybe up to 10 clients in total, whereas some people I know have 30, 50, 100 clients. My basic philosophy was always focus narrowly and do the best possible job you can for those people. And it's almost like I'm part of their company because we are very strategic. We talk about all their deals. We talk about future deals. We talk about upcoming maturities and when the best time is to refinance them. We talk about potential purchases. We are always analyzing potential purchases for my clients and letting them know truthfully if we think it's a good way to go or not such a good way to go. And if I think a borrower is better off doing a deal with a bank long-term for flexibility, or it doesn't make sense to do it on the permanent market, it's more flexible for them. I've never been fee oriented per se. Fees are not the reason I do my job. The reason I do my job is to be able to help my borrowers, and in turn that makes Bellwether a success.
Yeah, I think, when you mentioned, you have a smaller group of clients that you're, really hone in and narrow down, but then, other people have, dozens of clients. It's just another example of there's always different ways to go about executing business in our industry. And, it's interesting to hear the unique perspective that you have for your experience. And, we talk about kind of the high touch way that you do business with your clients. I wanted to talk real quickly about over the past, year or so through COVID and all the things that have gone on. Like, is there anything you've had to do or been cognizant of to adapt?
That's a great question. And I have to say, because of our longstanding relationships, our office had actually the best year we have ever had. It was a record-breaking year. I personally did really, really well. Everybody did well because we really focused on picking up the phone, talking to our borrowers a lot more than normal. I try to preach that all the time to the younger people. I was going to say young kids, but the younger people who do a lot through email and texting. I think it's so important to call. They can hear the tone of your voice. They can hear your enthusiasm. They can hear if it's a problem, how hard you're working to solve the problem. I truly feel like talking to people is so important, especially when you can't see each other face to face. High touch is so important. I mean, I am involved from the second I get a call about a deal till the moment the deal closes. That's just my style. I don't compartmentalize. Of course, Sherry does the underwriting, Christine does the closings, but I am involved in every single solitary step of the way. Insurance approval, survey, title, everything. I feel like it's so important to know everything about my deal. And that's one thing that lenders have said to me, and this might be helpful for younger people, is they usually move my deals to the top of the stack because they know I know those deals as well as the borrower. And it makes it easier for them to do. If they have a question and they call us, we typically know the answer or can get it really, really quickly because we are so familiar with our deals. Until COVID, I've never done a deal in 37 years that I hadn't seen personally. And sometimes when lenders would come to town to do tours of deals, I would drive it the day before just to make sure I had the route down, the comps down. I'm kind of directionally challenged anyway, so it would help me. But I like to be super prepared, almost to the point of neurotically prepared. I just think that's so important. Don't just do the deals by the numbers, as I'm saying. You really need to learn your deal, your borrower, what they want, what's important to them. Some borrowers, it's rates, some it's term, some it's IO, some it's leverage. And every deal you do, you should revisit with them what's important to them. It's about them, the lender and the borrower. It's not about us. We're the middle person. So our job is to make sure that both of them are happy.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot like the foundation that you've built for yourself and the way you do business over the last, how many years kind of puts you in a position where, we had this all happen over the past year with the pandemic and COVID and all that kind of stuff we mentioned, and you were kind of prepared almost. But kind of an interesting question, I think, could be, is there anything maybe different that you learned or took away from the last year that you're going to look into the future and maybe implement more or adapt in a way that, I'm going to do this a little bit differently, or I learned something specific from, the past year of business just because of everything being so changed? Like I said, it sounds like a lot of what you've done over your career has kind of put you in a position to be able to have a great year last year. But is there anything new that, you're going to take into the future going forward?
Well, I'm going to say that my strategy of never worrying about keeping up with the Joneses showed that it pans out, because I've only gone to the mortgage bankers convention like 4 times in 30 something years. I don't worry about going to industry things. Other people in my office do that so that we're covered, but I never have this fear of missing out. And that's what I try to tell people. Don't have a fear of missing out. If you can't go to a certain lender dinner, don't go. If you don't want to travel or can't travel to something, don't worry about it, because if you're doing your job to the best of the ability and explain to people why you can't attend something, they respect that you don't have to always be where everybody is or do what everybody does. Some people were going to restaurants having closing dinners. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And I told my borrowers that, and they respected that. I would just keep harping on, you have to be true to yourself and don't try to worry about what other people are doing. That's the other thing. Like, I don't even know what my competitors do. I don't even care. It doesn't matter to me. I have to worry about what I'm doing and what our office is doing. And I think it's just wasted energy to focus on what the competition is doing, because it just brings up something else to think about on a deal rather than focusing on the borrower and the lender.
I think kind of last question, and you can almost take this whole entire episode of this podcast as kind of like almost a class, because you're giving such good insight and information. But if there's anything that you could add or specifically kind of point to, your business over the last several decades is, you've built over like these relationships that you mentioned, but how does all of this translate to somebody who's earlier in their career, kind of in a similar position, when you started? If they're starting now, like, what would your advice be, or what are some things that they should be, on front of their minds as they begin their careers?
Okay, so I have a few things that I've thought about. One is find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a female if you're a female, or a male if you're a male, but find someone that you look up to that does business in the style that you want to. When I started at Mellon, and then of course Capstone and Bellwether. But when I was way back at Mellon, Barbara Sullivan was my mentor. She was ahead of me. She was pioneering. She worked from home when she had kids. Then I was able to work from home when I had kids. She had the same type of long-term, super loyal clients that only did deals with her. That's what I wanted to be like. And so we have a very, very strong friendship now, but initially she was my mentor. So I think it's really important for someone to find that role model that exemplifies how you want to do business. The other thing is, if you are not happy, you should definitely think about moving to another role. Some people feel like they need to be a producer, they need to be an underwriter, they need to be a data analyst, or they need to be in marketing, for example. But if you're not really happy, then you should try to see if there's another area in the company that you should move. Because if you're not happy and really loving your job, then you're not going to do a good job. And it's not going to be earnest. And all those traits I was talking about, the soft skills or the power skills, they just won't come through, and it won't translate into having a successful career. Some of the lenders I work with that are younger, they call me Aunt Sara. They say I'm their life coach. Lenders who I used to have that no longer work with me anymore, we still talk about once a month, because we did develop that kind of friendship I'm talking about. It's really important. And I was thinking the other day, when I do retire in the not too distant future, do I think my borrowers are going to still talk to me? Do I think some of my lenders are going to still talk to me? And hopefully the answer is yes. And if the answer is yes, then I know that I have been a success, because it's really about more than the numbers. If you have the relationships, you're going to do well, you're going to be happy, you're going to feel fulfilled, and everything else will fall into place.
I think that's pretty much all we got today. I appreciate you jumping on the Zoom. It's real weird. I'm got a camera here and like the screen over here so I can see your face. It's very different, as everybody knows, but I appreciate you joining this Zoom call and doing this face-to-face and giving all the great insight that you gave. So I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Sara.
My pleasure, Ryan. As I said, anything for marketing.
That concludes this episode of Mission Control, the Bellwether Enterprise Podcast. A special thanks again is owed to Sara Behrman for being a part of this episode. If you liked what you heard, you can subscribe to Mission Control on your favorite podcast platforms and Bellwether Enterprise YouTube channel. We post a new episode each month, which is also featured in our monthly newsletter, the BWE Insider. Send us an email to marketing@BWECap to sign up for that. And for more information on what Bellwether Enterprise can do for you in your commercial real estate transaction, feel free to reach out or visit our website at bellwetherenterprise.com. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.